الدكتور خالد شمس عبد القادر أستاذ مساعد في جامعة قطر. الدكتور سيوم هون بيك باحث أول في معهد الدراسات للشرق الأوسط جامعة هامبورغ للدراسات الأجنبية. السيد راشد المهندي زميل غير مقيم في مجلس الشرق الأوسط للشؤون الدولية. رجاء التفضل على المسرح. 이제 이번 세션에서는 연사분들을 소개하겠습니다. 먼저 이 세션 카타르 외교부 국제협력과 아흐메드 르미히님께서 진행해 주실 예정입니다. 연사분들을 소개해드리겠습니다. 조한 팔레스타인 대표 동경상주 월릿 스얌 대사님께서 함께해 주셨습니다. 이라크, 이란, 아프가니스탄 대사님께서 승훈엽 대사님께서 이 세션에 함께 하셨습니다. 카타르 대학교 교수 카리드 샴스 압둘카들 박사님께서 세션 1에 함께 해주셨습니다. 한국 외국어 대학교의 충동연구소 소음연구원 백승훈 박사님께서 오늘 이 자리에 함께 해주고 계십니다. 국적중동위원회 라시드 알무한디 함께 하셨습니다.
Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Ahmed Ramehi. I'm from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the Department of International Cooperation, and I have the pleasure of moderating today's session titled Charting the Future of Korea-Middle East Relations Amidst Geopolitical Shifts. For the sake of time, I'll be jumping straight into panelists. Allow me to briefly introduce our esteemed panelists. We have His Excellency Dr. Walid Siam, Ambassador of the Permanent General Mission of Palestine to South Korea and Japan. His Excellency's topic will be about the conflict in Gaza and its implication for South Korea and Middle East relations and Korea's potential role in de-escalation and reconstruction. Additionally, we have His Excellency Wong Yeop-song, former Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan. His Excellency's topic will be South Korea-Middle East cooperation amidst broader geopolitical shifts. We have Dr. Khalid Shams Al-Abdulqader, Associate Professor of Finance in the University of Qatar. His topic will be global and regional geo-economic transformations and implications for GCC and Qatar-South Korea relations. We have Dr. Sung-Hoon Paik, Senior Researcher, Institute of Middle East Studies in Hankook University of Foreign Studies. His topic will be Korea-Middle East cooperation under changing geopolitical conditions. Finally, we have Mr. Rashid Al-Mahannadi, non-resident fellow in the Middle East Council on Global Affairs, and his topic will be GCC and Qatar-South Korea cooperation in strategic technologies. The format will be each speaker will be presenting his remarks for 10 minutes, followed by a moderated discussion, and then we will open for a Q&A session. So I think we'll begin with His Excellency Dr. Walid Siam for his remarks, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Distinguished Excellencies, esteemed colleagues, honored guests. It is a privilege today to address you at the Korea Middle East Cooperation Forum 2025. Allow me to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to our host, the government of the State of Qatar, the Forum Secretaries, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, Middle East Council on Global Affairs, Korea Arab Society, Juju Peace Institute, and many thanks to Dr. Khalid Al-Jaber and Mr. Adil Ghaffar. Your commitments to dialogue, multilateralism, and regional partnership is deeply appreciated. Any serious discussions on the Middle East peace must begin with Palestine. For nearly 6 decades, the West Bank, including Al-Quds, Gaza Strip, has remained under Israeli military occupation. Territories internationally recognized as the basis of a future Palestinian state. The International Court of Justice has twice confirmed the illegality of the situation. In 2002-2004, the ICJ ruled that Israel's construction of a separate wall in occupied territories violates international law and that states must neither recognize nor assist in its continuation. Despite this illegal settlements expansions, condemned by UN Security Council as a flagrant violation of international law and has intensified. In July 2004, the ICJ reaffirmed that Israel continued presence in the occupied Palestinian territories, including East Jerusalem, its own fault. It found that illegal settlements expansion, annexation measures, and discrimination practices breaches international law, required Israel to end its occupation, dismantle illegal settlements, provides reparations, and facilitate the return of displaced Palestinians. Korea, with its modern history, is a story of extraordinary courage. From war and division to industrial strength, global leadership, and moral clarity. It is a story of a nation that rebuilt not only its economy, but its dignity and confidence. This matters profoundly to the Palestinian people because Korea understands the trauma of conflict, the yearning for peace, the meaning of sovereignty, and the dignity of rebuilding on its own land. Your own nation journey reminds us that recovery is not only possible, it's unstoppable when rooted in dignity, education, innovation, and unity. Korea's history gives it a moral foundation to engage in the Middle East peace beyond narrow strategic calculus. In Gaza, the situation has reached catastrophic proportions. Israel's military genocide, ethnic cleansing, and famine campaigns have destroyed homes, infrastructure, and entire communities. United Nations experts have warned that the population of Gaza faces the risk of genocide. It is not simply a Palestinian issue. It is a test of whether the international system is capable of defending its own laws. Today, Gaza stands at the center of a global moral crossroads. More than 600,000 Palestinians, civilians, have been killed, including tens of thousands of children and women. Hospitals, universities, schools, homes, and cultures, heritage sites, and towns completely erased. A ceasefire has been offered, yet it's a fragile. صح. The ceasefire has offered a fragile relief, yet daily life remains in survival. People live in tents beside the rubble of their former homes. Children study in makeshift classrooms. Doctors perform surgeries without electricity or medicine. Mothers bury their children before seeing them grow. Israel continues to occupy 70% the large parts of Gaza. Gaza is not a political issue. It's a human issue. The Korean people have shown deep humanitarian concern. In recent national polls, compassion for Palestinians remains high. 66% of Koreans support humanitarian assistance. A growing majority believe that the international community must rebuild Gaza. These finds reflect a true Korean understanding. Human dignity does not diminish over time, it deepens. In society, empathy, even amid global distractions, is profoundly noted and valued. The Palestinian appeal, we stand here not to request sympathy, but to invite partnership and rooted in international law. Shared security, human dignity, and development of anchored in justice. Korea, the leadership in technology, education, public health, and urban transformation makes it a unique position to support Gaza recovery and institution building. This is not a charity. It's an investment in stability. It's an investment in humanity. It's an investment in hope. Our vision for reconstruction of Gaza is a futuristic city where schools, universities, vocational centers, hospitals, health networks, solar, green energy, infrastructure, water, sanitation system, digital innovation capacity public governance and civil institutions, trade and investment pathways, airport and seaport. Let Gaza rise, not from the rubble, but toward opportunity and leadership and hope. Just as Seoul once rose, Gaza will rise with the world and with Korea walking alongside it. To speak of Gaza alone is to speak incompletely. Our struggle does not exist in fragments. Palestine is Gaza. Palestine is West Bank. Palestine is Al-Quds, is Jerusalem. One people, one homeland. The West Bank faces dangerous daily pressures, illegal settlements, expansion, land disposition, restrictions on movement and economy, growing illegal settlers' violence. Yet Palestinians' institutions continue to uphold governance, security cooperation, and stability. The true peace requires that Palestinians be allowed to live normally, move freely, and to build their future, full sovereignty. East Jerusalem, Al-Quds, is the heart of the Palestinian identity. It is the heart of the Palestinian nationality. It's the Palestinian identity, culture, and spiritual. We advocate protection of the holy sites, respect and compliance for international law, preservation of democratic and cultural integrity, equal rights for all residents. Jerusalem must be a city of peace, coexistence, and mutual respect, not exclusive wars, walls, or fear. Supporting Palestinian civilians' protection does not oppose any nation it supports. Humanitarian law, regional stability, the rules based on international order, a future with two people living in dignity. Korea understands peace through principles, not power alone. Korea's role in this moment carries moral and strategic weight. As a nation that has suffered war, division, and sovereign intervention, Korea understands that peace must be rooted in justice and international law. Today, this means ensuring that its policies and trade do not contribute directly or indirectly to the occupation or to the actions that risk grave violations of international law, while speaking clearly against escalation across the region. Korea's growing partnership in the Middle East, technology, energy, infrastructure, education, position itself as a principled and a constructive actor, one that champions humanitarian values and the global rule of law. By advancing a consistent policy grounded in the UN Charter, supporting a just two-state solution and affirming Palestine's right to freedom and statehood, Korea not only strengthened its ties with the Arab world, but it reinforced its own legacy as a nation that secured peace through justice, legitimacy, and global solidarity. Your history is not simply admired, it's a beacon. Just as the world invests in Korea's future, today the Palestinian people ask Korea and the international community to stand with humanity, to stand with law, not just borders and interests. Excellencies, peace is not an absence of suffering. It's the presence of justice. Let us ensure that bridges between Qatar, Korea, the Middle East, West Asia, and Palestine rise higher than the ruins of war. Let us prove through policy, let us prove through cooperation, let us prove through courage that the world does not abandon its children. From Gaza to Jerusalem, from Ramallah to Seoul, we choose hope over despair. We choose hope over dignity and over destruction, dignity over destruction, and life over fear. Sahamada, shukran, salamu alaikum, thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. The wonderful remarks. We'll now move to His Excellency Wong Yuk Sung for his remarks. Please.
Thank you, Ahmad Al-Rumaihi, for your kind introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This morning, I want to explore with you the future of the Korea-Middle East relations amid geopolitical transformation. Can I- This one. As shown on this slide, my presentation consists of four main parts. We will explore the shifting global landscape, analyze Korea's evolving role in the Middle East, evaluate key opportunities and risks, and just a moment. And outline strategic directions for Korea as it seeks to deepen its engagement in this dynamic and volatile region. We are witnessing a period of strategic recalibration in global affairs. The post-Cold War unipolar moment has given way to intensifying rivalry among the United States, China, and Russia. Multilateral institutions are under strain, while global supply chains and alliances are being reconfigured. Within this shifting landscape, the Middle East is no longer peripheral. It has become a central arena for competition over energy, strategic access, and influence. In this context, Korea must carefully navigate the pressures of great power competition while preserving its strategic autonomy amid maximizing its global influence. The collapse of the Bashar al-Assad regime represents not merely the fall of an authoritarian government, but a fundamental transformation of the Syrian states, a realignment of regional power dynamics in the Middle East, and the reshaping of external actors' strategic posture. For Korea, the challenge lies in turning regional uncertainty into an opportunity to expand its diplomatic footprint, contribute to reconstruction, and reinforce its role as a responsible and adaptive global actor. The Israel-Iran competition remains a frontline conflict. In just 12 days of intense conflict, Israel dealt a severe blow to Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities, while Iran's barrage of missiles and drones failed to meaningfully degrade Israel's defenses. The rapid escalation underscored the fragility of regional deterrence, exposed critical vulnerability in both countries, and reset the strategic stakes across the Middle East. By targeting senior figures in Hamas inside Qatar's capital, Israel shattered a long-standing red line that is striking the soil of a Gulf mediator state. The attack deepened regional mistrust, fractured the fragile architecture of ceasefire negotiations, and exposed both Qatar's security vulnerability and the limits of American-led deterrence in the Gulf. The Israel-Hamas ceasefire accord marks a pivotal turning point, a preliminary halt to hostilities between Hamas and Israel, encompassing hostage prisoner exchanges, the initial withdrawal of Israeli forces, and the resumption of humanitarian aid. Yet the agreement remains exceedingly fragile. Four issues, including Hamas disarmament, the future governance of Gaza, and Israel's long-term military posture are still unresolved. Ultimately, the durability of this truce will depend on whether it can evolve into a genuine and lasting peace, and whether the international community can help transform a temporary ceasefire into a foundation for meaningful political change. Korea's historical engagement with the Middle East began with energy security and large-scale infrastructure projects that powered its industrial rise. Today, as the region transitions beyond oil, Korea is shifting toward high-value partnerships in technology, renewable energy, and smart development, redefining its role from a resource-dependent partner to an innovation-driven collaborator. A landmark Korea-GCC Free Trade Agreement signed in December 2023 granted Korea preferential market access and underscored its broad ambition to deepen economic ties with the Gulf region. Korea's pragmatic diplomacy is defined by balance and adaptability, pursuing strategic autonomy while deepening partnerships with both global and regional powers. Guided by practical interests rather than ideology, it seeks to translate economic strength into diplomatic influence and to position Korea as a bridge between advanced and emerging worlds. Within the framework of Korea's pragmatic diplomacy, engagement with the global South has become a key pillar, emphasizing inclusive growth, development partnership, and mutual resilience. By aligning its technological expertise with the needs of emerging economies, Korea seeks to build equitable partnerships and reinforce its identity as a responsible and forward-looking middle power. APEC 2025 Korea, held from October 31st to November 1st, marks defining moment for regional cooperation under the theme of building a sustainable tomorrow. As a host, Korea aims to bridge advanced and emerging economies, foster digital and green transition, and revitalize multilateral trade. The summit's outcomes are expected to strengthen economic resilience across the Asia-Pacific and reinforce Korea's leadership as a connector of ideas, innovation, and shared prosperity. Given Korea's strengths and the region's evolving needs, the following areas hold strong potential for collaboration. There is a strong potential for Korea-Middle East cooperation in energy transition, nuclear power, and renewables. Combining Korea's advanced technology and project management expertise with the region's ambitious diversification agendas can drive joint progress toward a cleaner, more resilient, and future-oriented energy system. Korea and the Middle East share strong potential for cooperation in infrastructure, smart cities, water management, and the digital economy. By integrating Korea's technical innovation with the region's large-scale development vision, both sides can create sustainable, high-impact models for urban growth and digital transformation. Korea and the Middle East also have growing potential for collaboration in defense and security, grounded in mutual needs for advanced technology, strategic stability, and capacity building. Korea's cutting-edge defense industry and balanced diplomacy position it as a trusted partner in strengthening regional security and resilience. Korea is well positioned to play a bridging and mediation role in the Middle East, drawing on its balanced diplomacy, technological credibility, and the absence of colonial or ideological baggage. Yet the path ahead is not without challenges. Korea's cooperation with Middle Eastern partners faces significant external constraints, from the US-China rivalry that narrows its strategic room for maneuver to the region's volatile security environment and financial investment and sanctions-related risks. Navigating these challenges will require careful balancing of diplomacy, risk management, and long-term strategic vision. Finally, I would like to suggest a few policy recommendations. I believe that deepening Korea-Middle East relations in the years ahead will hinge on approach rooted in principled pragmatism and the cultivation of future-oriented partnership. A principled pragmatism approach between Korea and the Middle East should center on strengthening multilateral and collective platforms, aligning energy, climate, and investment policies, and deepening cooperation in defense and security. That is, balancing strategic realism with a shared responsibility for regional stability and sustainable growth.
Your
To
Excellency.
build future-oriented partnerships, both sides should pursue mutual cooperation for post-oil industry diversification, expand soft power and institutional ties through scholarships, cultural diplomacy, and joint R&D initiatives, and engage in coordinated efforts for the reconstruction of Syria and Gaza. In short, laying the groundwork for lasting trust and inclusive development. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Before we begin the next remarks, I'd just kindly pay attention to the remaining panelists to pay attention to the time limit of 10 minutes, if you don't mind. We will now have the remarks of Dr. Khalid Shams Abdulqader, please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this forum, important forum that connects South Korea with Qatar and the Middle East. And I would like also to thank all the audience. My topic today is about the geopolitics, geoeconomics, and its impact on the economic relations between South Korea and Middle East. And I put this map because it shows where are the elements that are emerged and will have the impact currently maybe and in the long run on the relations of our economic relationship between South Korea and Middle East. So the first thing is competition, and you see the scale where I put them on balance because East Asia have contributed a lot in the recent years in the economy of the Middle East, and it occupied significant increase in the percentage of the trade. And today we are seeing balance between trade relations between the East Asia, and the Europe and America. So today it's 35% percentage in the trade, and 35% percentage trade with America and the West. So it's now balanced. 10 years ago, the percentage of trade between Middle East and Asia, it was like 15%. So this shows that our ties and economic relations are increasing over time, giving the significance for the region to be a place where many players, major countries and major economies are trying to capture that benefits and bilateral benefits with the Middle East. And for sure, South Korea was part of this increasing economic relations with the Middle East. And since it started in 1973 until today, this relationship is continuing to grow until we reach today about $55 billion trade relations between South Korea and Middle East. And very important to mention about the continuation of this rhythm, because during this big period time, a long time, there were so many hard times and difficulties where the relationship gets sustained and overcome all these difficulties. In 2008, 73, and 2011, in 2014, in 2017, in 2019, COVID. So all during this period of time, the relationship was sustained and continuing. And also about the composition of our trade between South Korea and the Middle East. The composition has not changed a lot because South Korea exports for the Middle East manufactured product and high tech products. And in return, the Middle East is still continuing and exporting energy derivatives and oil and gas, as you know. So this composition has not changed a lot, although it has some advancement and developments in this composition, but it wasn't that significant. And that could also open some opportunities for South Korea to help on this part to increase the capabilities of the Middle East to go for more high-tech and technological products. The second thing is the emphasis of the Middle East on producing energy alternatives and renewable energy products. Somebody could ask this question, and why we as Gulf states and Middle East would like to focus on the alternative energies. In the same time, we have the energy. The problem here is that in the future, the contribution of fossil energy could decline because of the global shift towards renewable energy is increasing, and it is becoming like a big substitute for our fossil energy. So we have to focus a lot, and that will also open windows for South Korea to come and help and assist on bilateral relations with the Middle East to take part in lifting the Middle East in having that option of becoming not only a producer of energy and alternatives, but also the renewables of energy, and to become like a hub for integrated energy products, not only fossil and energy. The third thing is the global supply chain. And as you know that the positioning of Middle East in the heart and in the middle of the world, it's like connecting East with the West. And today, as you noticed, Qatar and the Gulf countries and Middle East, they have high-class aviation companies like Qatar Airways and Emirates and Etihad and some of the Saudi airline companies. They are working as a connection and facilitating trade between East and West, transporting individuals and products, light and middleweight products, because aviation is faster than the in terms of transporting products than whether it's going to be in focusing more on the heavy products, which is the option that maritime and sea transportation will become the better option. So we have in Middle East now major ports in Qatar and in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, and maybe in Kuwait. So this will also make this region very important in logistics and open the doors for foreign investments and investments coming from South Korea to take this genuine opportunity and establish projects in collaboration with these countries in the Middle East. And so this is like a big and important element that could be a good opportunity for increasing and strengthening the ties with the Middle East and South Korea. But there is also another important element, which is economic diversification. And although the economic diversification was very slow in becoming like a major source of income for the GCC countries, but now GCC countries emphasize a lot on this track. And mashallah, yani, there is now a big contribution from the service sector, including sports and tourism and health sector, which GCC countries invested a lot and got the help from South Korea and other major countries in Asia. The last thing is about the engagement of trade policies. As you know that United States they adopted two major policies lately: monetary policy and trade policy. Trade policy, as you know, they increased tariffs on many countries in the world, and they also reduced the interest rate. So focusing more on the local economy in America. So that stood like a major struggle for East Asian countries to have continuous relationship with America in terms of economic and trade relations. But that diverted the focus of East Asian countries to GCC countries, and because of sustainable relationship, which not going to be disrupted by any changes in policies that could have some impact, because as you know that currency of GCC is tied with the dollar, so any changes in the interest rate and any changes in the currency of dollar will have its implications on the dollar and also on the trade relations with major countries in the Asia. So these are the major spots that could have some impact on our relationship, and I hope it's going to be positive. So these are the main elements on the map of economic geography of the Middle East. I think I finished, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. We now have Dr. Sung-Hoon Paik for his remarks. I'm very nice with timing, but it's because we started a bit earlier, so I'll have to stop you if you
Okay, I understand. So where to begin? So thank you. First of all, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for kind introduction. So due to my time constraint, I may not be able to thank each person individually, but I sincerely extend my deepest gratitude to all the organizer, coordinators, and panelists who will share their valuable insight and every helping hand who made this important gathering possible. Thank you. So today I will be discussing how Korea and the Middle East can navigate the rapid changing regional landscape through pragmatism, balance, and institutional co-governance. So I will be emphasizing turning transactional cooperation into framework of a co-creation. To just proceed. Yes. So second slide, navigating the new geopolitical landscape. The world is standing at the inflection point. So the post-Cold War liberal order, once maintained by U.S. leadership and multilateral institution, is fragmenting under the weight of great power competition, economic decoupling, weakened global institution, and of course, elephant in the room, the Trump administration 2.0 strategy. And South Korea is still struggling to finalize the tariff deal. And our diplomats are working their best way to solve this problem. So in this environment, the Middle East, particularly the Gulf, has evolved from a passive periphery to an active hub of connectivity, bridging Asia, Africa, and Europe through energy, finance, and logistics. So the Gulf states are no longer just oil producer; they are architects of a multipolar world. So Korea strategic imperatives. For South Korea, this transformation has direct implication. So over 60% of Korea crude oil and LNG import come from the Middle East. The region is also our largest overseas project market and a growing partner in the defense cooperation. So these ties mean that the Gulf transformation directly affects Korea's energy security, trade competitiveness, and strategic diplomacy. So hence, Korea is trying to implement a new framework, pragmatic, balanced, and strategic hedging, one that ensures flexibility and resilience to the amid shifting power alignment. So Trump 2.0 doctrine, yes, the second Trump administration institutionalized what we may call America First realism. While the first Trump term also emphasized America First, it was more of leadership style that was largely personalized, deal-oriented, and negotiation-driven diplomacy. By contrast, his second term has become more institutionalized and systematic, embedding that same transactional logic into formal policy mechanism. It has reduced U.S. military engagement abroad, prioritized measurable national gains, and delegate regional responsibility to local partners. So as the consequences, we have seen how Israel had geared up their gains and dared to strike Qatar just a month ago. So it was kind of the open door for the Trump administration and his vacuum. So the Middle East, once central to the American foreign policy in terms of the direct U.S. engagement, has become a secondary theater. So this shift created both uncertainty and opportunity, allowing regional actors to assure great autonomy and partner like Korea to exercise more independent diplomacy. So with the weakening of U.S.-led order, regional autonomy is expanding. The Gulf is diversifying partnership with China, India, and Korea. Turkey pursues self-reliances, and Iran seeks strategic independence under sanctions. So multilateral institutions have weakened, while flexible bilateralism now defines diplomacy. For Korea, the present of wider but more complex diplomatic landscape. So triad of Korean engagement. So Korea relation with the Middle East rests on three interrelated pillars. One is energy, of course. I will not gonna go deep on that because as we all know about this, the industry Korea could play leading role in nuclear, petrochemical, and smart city project across the region, and of course defense. K9, K2 tanks, SAM missile defense system symbolize a new form of industry diplomacy. Together, these three sectors form foundation of Korea's pragmatic engagement. So, but economic cooperation alone cannot sustain long-term trust. So Korea's soft power, from K-culture to education and halal cooperation, strengthened its image as a cultural, sensitive, and trustworthy partner. But today, this K-soft power is evolving beyond the cultural exchange. It now connects directly within the expansion of K-food, K-continents industries into African and European markets. This trend not only promotes deeper people-to-people exchange, but also opened the door to the building new industrial ecosystem linking Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. For instance, Samyang Food Industry, a company known for its instant noodle and snack export, has already achieved remarkable growth in Indonesia, and their next major focus is Africa, a market where Middle Eastern partners see potential for manufacturing cooperation and joint value chain development within their African industrial ecosystem. In this sense, Korea's soft power has become a bridge between culture and commerce and transforming the mutual affinity into sustainable, innovative-driven collaboration. So, the South Korea future Middle East policy is guided by three interlinked principles. One, pragmatic innovation. Second, balanced engagement. Third, institutional expansion through well-managed hatching. So these principles align with Korea's global pivotal state vision to act not just as a participant, but as a co-architect of global governance. In practice, Korea has already begun to apply this balanced and cooperative approach. For example, in the recent UN vote recognizing Palestinian statehood, Korea supported the resolution, signaling its commitment to humanitarian balance and a rule-based international order rather than bloc-centered politics. Likewise, Seoul has maintained simultaneously partnership with both Israel and Arab states in areas such as defense technology, energy, and development cooperation, demonstrating that constructive engagement does not require taking side. So at the same time, Korea's relationship with Iran evolving beyond the US-driven policy framework of the past. Seoul has begun exploring indirect channels of engagement, focusing on humanitarian trade and limited financial cooperation rather than complete isolation. In this regard, Qatar mediation diplomacy, or the omnibalancing, its ability to maintain dialogue with all actors while aligning with global institutions, offers a valuable model for Korea. It shows the strategic neutrality can coexist with principled diplomacy. So ultimately, this approach embodies Korea's evolving identity, principled yet pragmatic, adaptive yet value-driven. So diplomacy, balance, and foresight. So, because of like time constraint, I have 3 minutes. I'll just go skip this slide and wanted to focus several points that I really want to make the things. I mean, like the important thing that we have is that as this example show. I mean, Qatar and Korea. 20. Probably it will be slide 20 of the booklet that you guys have. So as this example show, Qatar and Korea, along with other regional partners, are not just a participant in the global change. We are core architects shaping a more inclusive and resilient regional order, where energy, technology, and human innovation move hand in hand. So the Gulf as equal partner in policy design, Korea New Middle East Vision recognized the Gulf state as an equal architects of a shared future, not as a recipient of cooperation, but as partner in design. So there are three reasons why this is both logic and necessary. The Gulf states are now global financial power with diversified sovereign wealth funds investing in energy transition and high-tech industry worldwide. Their Vision 2030 and Vision 2071 framework, or whatever you name it, align closely with Korean innovation in economy, emphasizing digital transformation, renewable energy, and knowledge industry. Their diplomatic soft power, especially Qatar's role in mediation and humanitarian diplomacy, complements Korea's Korea neutral and technological like credible diplomacy. So we could build up together to just engage with Iran, to engage with Israel. Engage with Palestinian issue and etc. etc. So transition and to bring us to the next. This transition and that have bring us to the next step, moving from simply acting with to truly creating with. So from acting with to creating with. So I'll just go all the side. So toward commitment path forward. So I'll just go. This is the point. From the transactionalism to co-creation. So now I do believe, I will just wrap up with just mentioning this. I do believe South Korea and Middle East, the cooperation goes back like 1960. But what we has to do now is no longer just making a cooperation, but we have to make a co-creation. So we have to build our co-governance within the Middle East or the world politics and any world agenda through not just the transactional like cooperation, but co-creation of like the mutual governance within the sphere that we must tackle and engage. Thank you for listening. This is my presentation for today.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We now have the final presentation by Mr. Rashid Al-Mahdi.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to say it's a very daunting task being the last speaker for two reasons. One, speaking after very capable speakers and presenters, but two, I realize that I'm standing between you and the snacks and coffee outside. So I'll do my best in keeping this as interesting as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take you back to two times in history. One that's a bit far away, 50 years ago, and one that is quite close by. I'd like to take you back to the 1960s and 70s, where the Gulf states were gaining their independence. Korea was coming out of the Korean War. Both regions bashed, damaged, poor, found some synergy. Korea had manpower. Korea had technical expertise. The Gulf had energy resources. And during those 2 decades, from the 60s to the 70s, we saw a true South-South cooperation. Before even the term was coined, we had the Gulf providing Korea with cheap, reliable energy, and we see Korea providing the Gulf with technical expertise, companies building our infrastructure. And at the height of it, there were 1 million Koreans living, working in the Gulf, mostly in Saudi Arabia. So that's one moment in history. Another moment is quite recent, and it was talked about a little bit before I came, which is on the 9th of September, Israel conducted an airstrike on this city of Doha, just a few kilometers away. If we were sitting here during that strike, we would have heard 10 to 12 explosions. We lost 6 people. One of them was a Qatari security person, Badr al-Dosri. And that attack changed everything for us. It was not just an attack on Qatar. We were not a belligerent or a party to the conflict. We were the mediators. And this moment in history is very important, and it changes our view of security. We had the assumption that being a US ally, we wouldn't be attacked by other US allies, but that assumption has changed. So this lesson has to be taken by us in the Gulf, but also by our brothers in the East. So these two stories cover 2 things I'd like to talk about. One is bringing back this sense and spirit of South-South cooperation. 2 is a warning for us that we have to do it with security, stability, and peace in our mind. So now some geoeconomic lens to what's happening now. Both regions are prioritizing strategic autonomy. We see this in our policy notes. We see this in the speeches of our leaders. Strategic autonomy is an imperative. Why is that? It's because now we're being asked to choose. We're being asked to choose technology partners. We're being asked to choose economic partner. We see the great decoupling between the two great powers, the US and China. My message today is saying we don't really have to choose, because the elements of success are available in both our region and in East Asia. Focus areas. We need to focus, and this is my opinion as somebody that worked in the energy, defense, and now foreign policy industries. We have three areas that we need to really build on. One is our energy partnership. Our energy partnership was historically based on transactionalism. We had oil and LNG. We sold oil and LNG to Korea, and Korea would provide us with finished products. Now it has to go beyond that. Transactionalism can only bring us so far. We need to, like my colleague before me, co-create, co-produce. The Gulf has always been a very reliable energy supplier to South Korea. We take pride, especially in Qatar, as not missing a single shipment. When I used to work in LNG, I remember we had one situation where we had one of our ships break down, and it would have delayed the shipment to South Korea. And this was during the winter. And whoever visited South Korea during the winter, you know, it gets very cold. What did we do? We bought a shipment off the market that was close by to Korea and made sure that our Korean friends had their LNG when they needed it. And that shows what we base our relationship with, which is reliability and trust. Another focus area is defense. The GCC, and namely Qatar, Saudi, and UAE, have been recipients to different types of offensive. Just this year, Qatar was attacked using stealth fighters and ballistic missiles. In previous years, same thing happened to the UAE and Saudi. They were attacked by ballistic missiles. They were attacked by drones. So in the Gulf, we bring a lot of operational knowledge on how these things work and how to counter them. On the other side, Korea has developed their defense industry to becoming a top 10 defense industrial nation in the world when it comes to defense exports. You know, with my discussions with Korean defense executives, they're telling me we're aiming to become the fourth. And you can imagine the fourth being after the US, China, and Russia, which is a very viable and feasible aspiration if we focus on South-to-South cooperation. And in the defense industry, if you allow me to focus a little bit on this, I think the Gulf brings a lot and Korea brings a lot. And the focus should be on counter-drone systems, surface-to-air missiles, but also Gulf participation in Korea's future fighter program, which the Gulf already is. Challenges. There are two main challenges I see this partnership facing, which we need to think very pragmatically about. One is economic uncertainty. I'm not an economist, but when I sit with economists, they tell me that, you know, the doomsday is coming, recession is coming, and, you know, I trust my economic friends. But two is geopolitical uncertainty. The Trump administration brings change that we expected, but it was brought a little bit too fast when it comes to tariffs and decoupling. And this cooperation between the GCC and South Korea that we need to foster focusedly can help us mitigate these risks. So I end by this. People working in foreign policy, you know, they're trained as diplomats. I think now we need to be trained as risk managers, like in the corporate world, where we identify risks, develop mitigation strategies, and manage them. Because the risks will only increase, the perils will only become more. And through these partnerships, we can at least mitigate the bad times and reap more benefits from the good times. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rashid. We'll now move to the discussion segment I'd like to thank all the speakers for their insightful presentation and thought-provoking remarks. I'd like to go back and begin with His Excellency Dr. Walid Siam. Dr. Walid, how can the Korea International Cooperation Agency and other Korean agencies contribute to the Gaza reconstruction?
Thank you. I think first it's important that Korea, with its relationship in the Middle East, especially with Israel, is to put pressure on Israel to first withdraw from the occupied areas in Gaza and allow humanitarian aid to enter to Gaza, and also the equipment for helping and finding lost Palestinians under the rubble, and to help in bringing water supply and electricity supply to Gaza at this moment. So Korea has a very good experience in electricity. So I think Korea should be involved in that sector and also in the water sector. We hope that Korea relationship with the Israelis can foster and allow these equipment to come in, because we all talk about the relationship, Korea's relationship with Israel, but all we have seen is talk, statements. There is no forced decisions on Israel to force Israel to accept that. So I think it's time now to see results instead of statements. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question, since you mentioned in putting pressure on Israel. How can Korea, as a non-permanent member of the Security Council, contribute to lasting peace in Palestine?
To be diplomatic, first, I think they stop sending weapons to Israel, stop sending ammunition to Israel, which they have been doing for the past 2 years. This information is from the Korean newspapers. That helped Israel in committing genocide and ethnic cleansing in Gaza. I think Korea relationship with the Middle East, if it balances between the Middle East and Israel, there's no comparison. So Korea has to take a decision. Who is most important in the relationship? The Middle East or Israel? They have to make a decision right now, because they cannot continue being neutral in this time that Israel is committing this genocide and ethnic cleansing and famine in Gaza.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'd like to move to Your Excellency Wong Yeop-sung. Considering your extensive diplomatic experience in the Middle East, how do you envision the future of Korea and Middle East roles in navigating global geopolitical shifts?
As I explained just before, it is a very difficult issue, frankly speaking. We are facing the external implications for our cooperations, in particular the US and the China rivalry, something like that. So it is, we have very limited room for maneuver. But I believe that Korea is very closely and very carefully look at the developments in this volatile and unsecure region. And we believe we have some strong potentials between us to develop together. As my colleague mentioned just before, many fields such as renewables and of course the high-tech energy systems, and in particular the defense and security sector as well. So we can navigating these challenges with careful cooperation and in the near future, I think the Korean government would possibly consider the possibility of recognition of Palestinian status or something like that. I personally sincerely hope in the near future the Korean government would also recognize the Palestinian state. As a whole, I personally believe in the near future, we can coordinate and collaborate together for more future-oriented development in many fields.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'll now move to Dr. Khalid. Dr. Khalid, how do you anticipate the evolution of Korea-Qatar cooperation in today's complex geo-economic environment?
يعني the economic environment today is very complicated.
It's the microphone, if you don't mind, just a little close. Thank you.
The economic environment is governed with uncertainty صراحة. يعني if you look at what are the latest changes that happened in the trade relations between China and East Asia and the United States, this disrupted the global economic relations because we don't know what is the يعني overall result of what is going on. But I think we need to have our strategic goals in emphasizing on the trade relations with our main partners and trustworthy partners to continue this and to get ourselves to overcome all these difficulties that are coming from the uncertainty. And uncertainty is coming from two major things. Number one is the policies that are coming from the United States because it is the weight, the big weight that has influence on our global relations, economic relations, and how the Middle East and other countries, Asia and other countries, can react to what is going on. United States is more towards inward looking, focusing on their local economies. And this region also would like to maintain its stake in the benefits that is coming from the trade relations, like exports of oil, maintaining the prices of oil, and continuing in the diversification policies, and getting that genuine assistance and collaboration with the East Asia, because now East Asia is one of the main driver in the infrastructure of the diversification policies in our region and the Middle East. So how this is going to sustain with this environment of uncertainty and the direction that the global economy is going to. And I think if we continue in implementing our 2030 visions, focusing on different clusters in our economy, continuing our relations with the main partners, and trying to manage all these risks associated with the changes that's happening, the main indicators in the global economy, interest rate, exchange rate, the flow of capital, and the flow maybe of products over all these routes between East and West. And the Middle East is in the heart of this. So I think, inshallah, if we maintain that risk and try to govern it and manage it, things will continue and will overcome any difficulties that could come in our way.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. Dr. Sung Hoon Paik, you spoke in your presentation about co-designing and co-creating strategies to address the geopolitical challenges and so on. Could you expand in practice? What do you mean by those strategies, specifically for Qatar and Korea?
This is the thing. I mean, like recently, South Korea kind of like successfully like pushed United States to support us in the nuclear engine submarine. But like this has never had happened before, especially when we are like confronting with China, because China will never let us have those kind of like weapon system. But like the reason how our like diplomats have like maneuvered this was that using North Korea and using the environment and creating the narratives and discourse saying that we are under threat and North Korea has a nuclear weapon and they're doing this, so we need a certain like protection. And then it kind of this narrative and discourse kind of really implemented as a policy, and it is on the way. And of course, it's always like relative. I know the ambassadors of Palestinian are like kind of very frustrated by our Korean government of not participating enough. But this is the thing. Our diplomacies are doing our best to make this narrative change. The reason why we decided to go not veto the deal of like embracing a Palestinian status in UN was because we need the support of like Arab allies. So we, in terms of like when we are confronting with North Korean humanitarian issues like defectors and all this like concentration camp and etc. and etc. So that kind of dialogue and humanitarian issues like defectors and all this like concentration camp and etc. and etc. So that kind of dialogue and discourse really changed our policies. And so my point is co-creation, cooperation and coordination, and after that we need the co-governance. But in order to do that, we need this kind of like the conference and forum as many as possible. So that way we could create our discourses, create our narratives to actually implement it in the policy and realization in enacting the regulation and the law. So my point is this: I'm not sure. Like Qatar, and this is the point because we have to expand our like relation with. Relation with Iran, because Iran is one of the, but Qatar is doing a wonderful job, like making a balance and make. So this is the thing: building together, building co-governance together. We could touch upon the things as a middle power, like we could just anchor. Yes, we have to anchor our anchor into the United States. Really so firmly, but by doing that, we could maneuver. We could like expand our area of like covering. But this is something that we have to do together. Because if South Korea do it alone, then we're gonna have like hard time, like sandwiched by Russia, China, and United States. So this is kind of thing that I really want to talk with our like allies of Middle Eastern allies, especially Qatar, because they are doing fascinating job building and making this narrative and discourse and implement it as a policy. Yes.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'll now move to Mr. Rashid. Against this fraught geopolitical landscape, how do you see Korea harnessing strategic technology cooperation with Qatar specifically in the broader region?
So during my talk, I focused on three areas, which was energy, defense, and security, and emerging tech. I think with the first two, the model of cooperation is clear. With energy, we're looking at Energy 2.0. We should focus on areas like creating hydrogen corridors, look at ammonia, trying to achieve, even though I don't think it's very achievable, close to carbon neutral LNG supply chains with our Korean friends. In defense and security, I'll just repeat something I mentioned, but I want to emphasize on it. In the Gulf now, we have operational knowledge on how new weapon systems are being used. And I think this is an area where we can share our operational knowledge with our Korean counterparts and develop joint countering technology for such threats. Because we see it also in Ukraine and Russia. Every day, Shahed drones are hitting Kiev and hitting different targets within Korea. Here in the Gulf, we were also unfortunately hit with similar threats. So in defense and security, I think there is a real area of symbiosis which is not being discovered yet. When it comes to emerging tech, people always say AI. AI is already here. AI language models are here. Everybody is using AI. It's a nice talking point for diplomats and officials. But there are areas that are being focused now, but we should put more emphasis on them, like quantum technologies, quantum computing, quantum communication. And if any state achieves quantum supremacy, all of our digital infrastructure becomes obsolete. All of the big powers are investing in it, the US, China, and Europe. And I think there is space for more South-South cooperation. Just a few years ago, Qatar established one of the region's first quantum computing centers in Hamad bin Khalifa University. When I talk to the director, I do hear that there is some cooperation with our counterparts in East Asia, but I do believe there's a lot of area of making this cooperation better and more effective. So these three areas I would focus on, because usually when we devise and develop policies, we dream very big, but when you dream very big, a lot of things fall between the gaps. So these would be the three focus areas I think any GCC Korea strategy needs to have.
Thank you very much. We will now be opening questions from the audience. If you can raise your hand, introduce yourself, keep your question short. If you have a designated speaker that you'd like to ask, then mention the name. If not, then I'll invite all the panelists to answer the questions. I think we have the gentleman.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I am Dr. Mohsen, Deputy Ambassador of Iran in Doha. Thank you very much for the moderator and distinguished panelists for presenting very fruitful and very update information regarding to the Korea-Middle East Cooperation Forum. I have one question first regarding to the comment raised by His Excellency Walid Siam, His Excellency Ambassador of Palestine. As you know very well that the Madame Francesco Albanese, the Special Rapporteur of Occupation Palestinian Territory, they delivered the reports to the 59th session of Human Rights Council. I quote AHRC 59/23, entitled From the Economy of Occupation to Economy of Genocide. And there he referred to the name of the cooperation machinery and many cooperation entity and the many that the firm and the society that active in this occupied Palestinian territory that contribute and complicity to this colonial apartheid regime to continue of genocide, they committed war crimes against humanity, against the Palestinian people. My question is that, what's your opinion about this report that also presented to the 18th session of the United Nations General Assembly? The second point regarding to the comment that raised by the former ambassador of the Korea in the Iran, His Excellency Wang Song. You referred to the issue of the war Iran and these apartheid Zionist regimes. as you know very well, I think that the issue between the Iran and this apartheid regime is not the issue of the, for example, the Iranian missile capability or Iran the drone. The issue is that it was the first time that in the 13 June 2025, in international relation, one non-member of non-proliferation treaty attacked by the US to the one member of the non-proliferation treaty. Iran in the 1968, after the Japans, is the first country that joined to the non-proliferation treaty, and we are on the drafting committee of this NPT. So after the revolution, we joined to the non-proliferation treaty extent 1995. We joined to the optional protocol of non-proliferation treaty. So I would like to ask, what do you think about this issue that I raised regarding to this, the motivation of this, the colonial that would like to domination his hegemony in the West Asia? Thank you so much.
Dr. Wade, the questions understood, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. There are so many reports about what's going on in Gaza, in the United Nations. The problem is here that all members of the UN, especially in the Security Council, has not forced one UN resolution against Israel. So as long as the Security Council has not enforced any resolutions on Israel, and Israel continues to be a country that does not comply or respect the United Nations, these reports continue. I mean, we don't need reports to show that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. I think everybody on the social media and the Palestinians in Gaza has shown what Israel is doing in Gaza. The ethnic cleansing, even Israeli soldiers have went on TikTok and all social media being proud of what they are committing in Gaza. And also the famine. I mean, many of the Israeli government ministers, including foreign minister and others, has always had statements about there is no famine in Gaza, but if they're going to die from hunger, let them die. And we're going to continue on killing the Palestinians. So all of these reports has been ongoing since 1948. 1948, 67, ongoing every year and every year and every year. They must have a respect to international law, the rule of law. Today, there is no international law. Israel attacks Qatar. Israel attacks Iran. Israel attacks Lebanon. Israel attacks Syria. Israel attacks anybody they want. Yemen, under protection that they want to go on self-defense. There is no self-defense as long as you are an occupying force. So the Middle East countries, even the international community, should stop Israel from whatever they want. But then you say Israel is a friend of America. Also, the Middle East has strong ties with Americans. They can put pressure on America to stop Israel of being this outlaw, because Israel is not a country anymore. Israel is an outlaw terrorist entity that continues and terrorizing not only the Middle East, but the world. So we have to go back to the basics. If there is no respect to international law and there is no commitment to force the rule of law, then we are going to be living in a world that's going to be in chaos. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We'll take another question.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, I apologize. Please go.
Okay. Considering limited time, I will answer very briefly. Frankly speaking, I'm not in a position to say about the position of Korean government, so I would rather not talk about it. But I would like to say my personal opinion and personal feeling, because I was Korean ambassador to Iran, and in particular from 2012 till 15. So during my stay in Tehran, the negotiation between Iran and P53 has been continued and I was so proud to be there to witnessing the historical moment. So when the JCPOA has been concluded in July 2015, I was so happy. But suddenly it was broken in 2018. So as everybody every speaker has mentioned, nowadays we are going through turbulence in terms of the geopolitical transformation. So nobody can predict what will happen tomorrow, something like that. So I personally and sincerely hope in the near future the negotiation between Iran and America and P5+1 again, resume again, and they could reach a compromised position together, because we have to come back to the center, not to any extreme. So it is pity about concerning the 12 days war between Israel and the USA and Iran. So I personally stand sincerely hope in the near future the new round of negotiation between Iran and P5+1 concerning the nuclear program in Iran and succeed in the enrichment of good negotiation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think we had the lady in the front here.
My name is Leah Khiami, and thank you all for being here. I enjoyed listening to your presentations. I'm wondering if each of you can provide us with a key area you see Korea-Middle East relations developing further in the future.
The question was, if you can repeat the question, was Korea-Middle East relations for the future?
If you can provide us, if each of them can provide us with an example where they see a key area.
Okay. I think that's a question for our panelists. We'll begin with Mr. Rashid this time.
So that's a very broad question. The first thing that came to mind was maybe Gulf drama and K-drama cooperation. But on a serious note, I'll just repeat some of the points. Technology, but there's something really important, which is people-to-people relationship. And I think, unfortunately, I'm being very self-critical, we have not invested so much. I'm happy to see the presenter speaking in both Arabic and Korean, and that's one step. But I think more educational exchanges. We have many universities here in Qatar from different parts of the world. I think it'll be very interesting to see a Korean university open here and vice versa.
Doctor, would you like to?
For me, the diplomacy, because if I have a chance to speak those of things, I always says, because in Korea they always says, oh, we have to follow Israel, because Israel is the allies of United States, based on the alliances, they could do a lot of things, and etc. etc. But I kind of said differently, because Israel is Israel because they have a nuclear weapon. So, and that's why United States keeps them that way, because it's an efficient tool. But in Korea, even if Korea has a nuclear weapon, it's no use, because China has it, North Korea has it, Japan is, they could have it instant, and Russia has it. So our goal and our the role model for the diplomacy is Qatar, because they are packed with surrounded by the all friends, enemies, and all that, but they could show a tremendous amount of flexibilities and resilience, and and they are the country that has a SOFA agreement with United States. South Korea the same. So within the pretty much similar environment, and if we could benchmark how Qataris are doing it, and then I think our diplomacy could be expel much better. So if you're asking what is the area that we could cope with, in my opinion, diplomacy. I think we could learn Qatar model to excel as a Korea, because Korea has a lot of other elements that we could excel in the global politics.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid.
I think, my dream is that this region could stand as a contributor in technology, not only taker of technology, because we are just consumer of technology. The know-how is very important. Establishing the relationship on this track is very important for us, and technology is becoming like a future for all countries, especially this country that is this region that is lacking and is backward in terms of producing for the human some sort of technology like we are using. So more focus on education system, more focus on training, more focus on visiting each other and having that joint projects that will take us to this line. And we don't want to be competitors. We are partners in technology. So we have oil and gas, and that inshallah will last for a couple of years. Projection says that in 2050 the world will rely almost 20 to 30% on oil, and the rest will be for renewables. So the track of investing in technology that could help this region and extracting from our energy something that could also contribute in the alternative energy. So now I think there is a big investment in hydrogen, and hydrogen is extracted from gas. This is something that we would like to utilize and have that big part in utilizing our resources, and also linking this with the recent technology. And we also could contribute in this technology that exploits current resources that are in our region, and to export whatever we can produce, and increase the contribution of our GDP, inshallah. This is it.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid. Please, Your Excellency.
As I told you just before, we have very strong potential for collaboration between Korea and Middle East. So I would like to underscore one field, for example, such as defense and security sector. As you may know, the Korean diplomat, the defense and security sector has some privileges, in my personal opinion. First, the exceptional quality and the very competitive price. And in particular, we have provided the timely delivery, and in particular, we are ready to transfer our technology to our counterpart. So, and also, I would like to stress that Korea has no colonial or ideological baggage. So, in considering all these factors, I firmly believe we could be a very good partner in the near future in this defense and security sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps you don't have any issues. We can take, I think, 2 more questions from the audience. He's in the back there.
Mr. Walid, Sam rightly mentioned international law, and actually I have a question. What would you like to see in parts of the legislation between Middle East, particularly in Qatar and Korea? How would you take this approach with the enforcement of the international law, not only in in addressing the treaties existing, but how would you like them to see changed between the two parties? What would be your approach? Thank you.
Could you repeat the question a bit clearer, please? You spoke about legislation?
Yes. Yeah. Approach between two nations. What would be the approach addressing the legislation, in particular with the current?
Is there a specific area in legislation or just broad legislation?
Broadly, because currently there is no enforcement. Actually, there is an issue with enforcement, so there is absolutely none of it. So therefore, how would you like to see it changed?
Okay. Your Excellency, I think, would you like to answer that? Or Dr. Your microphone, please.
Sorry, I mean, like, international law is a trickiest lexicon. There's no binding obligation to actually force them to engage. So yes, but I think we are doing our best. I mean, Qatar is doing their best to make the. I mean, look at it. Look at UN, and this is kind of like capturing moment that when Netanyahu was making a speech, like half of the audience and UN just left, and it clearly shows that the world is changing, and if that keep on happening, and then Israel no longer could just do as whatever they are doing right now. So yeah, but like in terms of South Korea and Qatar actually participating the enforcement. I mean, look at what had happened in Ukraine. I mean, like UK and France, those of you who signed a treaty that if Ukraine abandoned the nuclear weapon, then they were going to protect them if something happened. But it never happened. So like it's very brutal side of international politics. But but I'm not a government personnel. So but as a political scientist, it's very difficult to make a enforcement because like in UN, there's two cases that had happened in Gulf War and in the Korean Civil War. That is the only case that UN defense forces went in and actually. Clear out the things. So I think it's very. I know it's very sad, but it's very difficult. But I'm still believers of international like law because we are witnessing Israel cannot just play their own game, and they don't have that freedom that they had like 10 or 20 years ago. So yeah, I think. It won't be the satisfied answer, but this is best I could give it to you. Sorry.
Your Excellency, would you like?
Unfortunately, it's a double standard. International law. It's forced on Libya, it's forced on Yemen, it's forced on every country except Israel. It's a double standard. The international community is a double standard community. As long as they do that, and as long they are supporting the countries that does not comply with international law, we're gonna come to a certain point that USA and its leadership is the one that's going to put the international law for every country. There's not going to be any United Nations because the United Nations at this time is one of the weakest organizations in the world. It talks statements, but it does not really put any effort to stop the wars. So the international community is responsible to either unite and force international law and the rule of law, or then we're going to be under the umbrella of the Trumpish or whatever governments comes into later in one country to control the rule of law of this world. So we have to really enforce international law on Israel today. That's it.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think we can take one last question from the audience. The gentleman in the middle.
Thank you very much. My name is Ahmed Morsi. I'm a visiting fellow at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs. I have two quick questions, one to Ambassador Siam and one to our Korean colleagues. So Ambassador Siam, you have been serving in Korea and Japan as ambassador to Palestine, and you have lived there for many years. I would like for you to give us some sort of quick reflections on your experience being there through the past 2 years and how you have seen Korean versus Japanese kind of domestic, maybe mobilization for Palestine or support, and to what extent we can think how this could change on the political level down the road. For our Korean guests, I think in the region, particularly Japan and Korea, and I'm not saying they're the same, but both countries have went through recent changes. So elections in Japan brought the first female prime minister, but also Korea, we have seen a change that is very unlikely, that we have never seen before in Korea in that way. I would like to ask you to particularly identify maybe one or two things that will be done differently by this government towards the Middle East. If you want to make it about the Gulf, if you want to make it about the broad Middle East, I will leave the floor to you, but one or two differences that this government will do compared to previous governments of Korea vis-a-vis the relationship with the Gulf or the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency. Thanks.
I don't want to sound so negative, but for the past 2 years, unfortunately, Japan and Korea has not taken full responsibility as a members of the international community. How? The Republic of Korea, as an example, was only statements about what's going into Gaza. And the statements were against the Palestinians in a way. It's talking about Hamas is the ones that committed. They forgot that it's not Hamas. We are under occupation since 1948, and even before 1948. And this has been dragged on since 1948 until today. So it didn't start as October 7. Unfortunately, both countries took October 7 as the beginning of the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Even though Korea has been under occupation and went through occupation over the 33 years, unfortunately, they support the occupier. They support Israel 100% in their statements for the past 2 years. Yes, they put in their statements, we are with the ceasefire, we are with humanitarian aid, but that doesn't work. Today, I said 60,000 Palestinians have killed. In an average of 733 days, if we're going to average every day 50 Palestinians have been killed, we're talking about hundreds of thousands. And yet, countries are just talking about statements, ceasefire. On the Japanese side, also, they took the October 7 as if it's the beginning of the conflict. And until today, both countries share the same thing. October 7 is the problem, not the real. What is the core problem? The core problem, ladies and gentlemen, is Israel continues occupation. If Israel continues occupation, there is no peace. We Palestinians, under international law, under UN resolutions, under Geneva Convention, under we have the right to resist the occupiers in any form. And as long we are occupied, we have the right to resist this occupier. So I think that Korea and Japan should stand on the right side of history, not stand with the occupier, but stand with the victim of the occupier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, if you remember the question, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, and like the biggest. Can I go? I'll just make it quick. I mean, what are the differences of the current Lee Jae-myung's government? Is because, like, compared to all this different previous presidency, he's less ideological compared to that of any president in Korea. Because he had no root in any party politics. He was a guy. He was a guy who kind of like paved his way to the presidency, so that he doesn't have any strong ground in Democratic parties. He didn't have any the platform that they could use, because he wasn't a college graduate. He doesn't have this like lineage and etc. So he's very adaptive And some people, though that's why some people really criticize him as a populist because he jumps around. And everybody thought nobody could imagine the president of Democratic Party could like say it in APAC, even when Xi Jinping is in the prison. So he kind of said it. Oh, we need nuclear propelled the engine to actually confront with China and North Korea. That's exactly the word that he said it. So I was kind of like puzzled that is it kind of like a blunder of diplomatic blunder, or is it really he implemented to actually push a little bit further? But so having said that, what are the differences? I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity if the environment happen because of the Trump. There's a lot of like environment is opening. Like there's all like the area that that we could go beyond is kind of like opening. But in terms of that, in that environment, I think President Lee is most flexible guy who could actually compete within that area. So because he doesn't have any like kind of like lobbyist group who that he had to back it up. So I think if you're asking what are the biggest difference that Lee Jae-myung president has, is maybe his flexibility because he has no like background and orientation or lobbyist group that he had to like pay back. So I think that is the biggest difference that I could come up right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
And I would like to add something concerning the Korean government's position on the Palestinian issue. Yes, you are right, but you have to consider very carefully concerning the Korean Peninsula situation. As my colleague Mr. Beck said just before, we have facing the very unpredictable our brothers in the northern part of Korean Peninsula. And as you know, the North Korea has continuously developed missile technologies, and they are holding the secret nuclear powers. So we need our survival, our defense and security, together with the supporting from the U.S. government. So we have to consider also the position of U.S. government as well. So as I told you, our new government, Mr. President Lee Jae-myung's government, is pursuing pragmatic diplomacy. Pragmatic diplomacy is defined by balance and adaptability. So in this regard, we are considering the issue of Palestinian state. And as you know, the Korean government strongly support the two-state solution. And even though we did not yet recognize the Palestinian state, but we have actively participated in the humanitarian assistance, and we have our own the mission office in Ramallah. So, and as I told you, the Korean government will carefully and very closely look at the developments in this Middle East area, including Palestinian issue. And I personally hope in the near future, the Korean government would more favorably consider the Palestinian issue than right now situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think we ran a bit late on time. I'd like to thank all the speakers. I'd like to apologize to Dr. Khalid and Mr. Rashid for not having final remarks, but thank you all for listening, and thank you again for the speakers. If we can have a clap of hand for the